You are now tuning in to the Going North podcast with your host, best-selling author and professional speaker and member of the John Maxwell team, Dominic Dom Brightman. And every Monday and Thursday we're going to hear the voice of a different author sharing their gifts, stories, and expertise to help you charge forward in life. Now let's get on with the show. Y'all thought it was over, but it ain't over, baby. Gratitude session, another round. And this honoree today is going to be a 14-year Air Force veteran that I met through Toastmaster International a couple years ago by the name of Nick Baskerville. He is one heck of a funny dude, and he is one heck of a storyteller on top of that. And he's got a book that's going to be coming out in the coming months, and he is gonna be on fire. Just like to shout you out, man, and give you some thanks for your support with book number 2, Stay the Course, and looking forward to all the wonderful stuff that's gonna be happening in the future for the both of us, my friend. And today on the Going North podcast, we bring you extraordinary humans from all over the world who put pen to paper and publish their work for the world to read. Today's no different, because today we have a ghostwriter, biographer, and lyricist. This wonderful gentleman right here has worked with some of the biggest names in music, such as Aretha Franklin, Ray Charles, and Marvin Gaye. And now in his inspiring memoir, he shares how writing for these legendary artists led him to faith. It's the one and only DR himself, David Ritz. How are you today, sir?
I'm good. Happy to begin to talk and chop it up.
Oh, man, it's great to have you on. And
all
you
right.
got this new book called The God Groove.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, indeed. Yes, indeed. So how does it feel, right? Ghostwriting for all these other artists, and now you're finally stepping out and publishing one on your own.
Feels good, you know. I'm an old guy, so it took me a while to get to it, but I'm happy to, I don't know if there's that many books out there about being a ghost, and that's what I've been doing for the last 147 years, so I thought it'd be a good idea to explain to those who might be interested what it means to be a ghost writer.
Oh, yeah, that's what I'm talking about, indeed. Well, as with all introductions, are not allowed to be 50 days long, so mind filling in some gaps and explaining to those who may not be familiar with ghostwriting?
Yeah, well, a ghost, easily explained would be if you have a story to tell and you either don't have the chops to do it or you don't want to do it, you hire me and I do it for you, and I do it in the first person. I pretend I'm you, and I write the book for you. And, you get to approve it and tell me, no, that's not me. Yes, that is me. Change this word or keep that word. And kind of an ancient kind of trade, and I enjoy it. I like it. It's challenging. It's weird because you have to pretend you're someone you ain't. And kind of like acting, you have to act out a part and become a character. And it kind of changed who I became as a person, which I didn't really anticipate that. And I've been doing it for about 40-some years, so I've gotten pretty good at it, and I'm still challenged by it. It's not easy, and every book is a different challenge because it's a different character, and that's me. You're a happy kind of ghost.
That's right, and better than Casper, too, because you actually ghostwrite.
Yeah, that's right. Casper the friendly ghost.
Yes, sir, indeed. Yes, sir, indeed. And you definitely developed yourself as a person, because as I was reading through your book, I noticed that you've really gotten better with as an individual, because you was studying sales and you learned from your parents, and since they were both into sales, and you were able to put those skills into use.
Yep. Yeah, that was a big deal, because I think that part of what a ghost writer has to do is convince his collaborator to hire him or her, and that's a sales challenge. If you wanted to have a ghost writer, you might interview 2 or 3 or 4 different individuals, and they'd give you their pitch, and then you would choose. So I like selling very much, and particularly when I believe in the product, and in this case, I'm the product, and I certainly believe in myself, and that's what's happening. I mean, I like to sell my wares. You know, sometimes I think of myself as a shoemaker. You know, I learned how to make a good pair of shoes, and as time goes on, I think I've improved. Anyway, you know, enough about my high opinion of myself.
And speaking of high, it was kind of interesting early in the book you mentioned how weed hyped you up as opposed to slowing you down like a lot of folks.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, I don't know. It's kind of strange about pot. I mean, pot's an interesting plant. You know, I'm happy that it's legalized, but I personally used it, and everybody's biochemistry is different. But for me, pot wound me up. It was like Coke. It just got me hyper, and I enjoyed the hype, and I like being buzzed, but I think it clouded my clarity, and then I was addicted to it. I mean, and I don't think everybody gets addicted to pot, just as everybody doesn't get addicted to booze, but I did, and I had to go to a 12-step program to get off of it, and going to that 12-step program had a huge impact on my life, and it's part of the story I tell in the book.
Yes, indeed, and a fabulous book that it is, because it kind of illustrated the classic lessons of being rejected but overcoming those objections to getting to the top, because I remember you were being rejected constantly by Ray Charles's manager, but you finally were able to get to him, the man himself in Braille, and it was a success.
Yeah, I think anybody, well, not everybody, but, you know, most people who write and want to make a living writing and want to get published and get accepted by an editor or a publisher have to come to terms with rejection. And it hurts, and I'm still being rejected often. And I mean, it isn't I've gotten to the point where, you know, I just do something and it's accepted. But I think the ability to take rejection and go on is a big deal. And it's what's weird about rejection, particularly when it's your own work, is that it's personal, but you can't take it personally. Even though it is personal, if you take it too personally, it kills you. You know, it paralyzes you. And you just have to fight your way through the pain, and it hurts to be rejected. And I hate it. I want everybody to love what I do, but not everybody does. And even this book's gotten a couple of really good reviews, and the other day it didn't get such a good review, you know, and the guy wasn't crazy about it and thought I was a name dropper, and, you know, so, and, you know, that's a form of rejection, and that's okay. I mean, and I guess my aim is to honor everybody's experience, everybody's reading experience, just honor it, not have to kind of demonize them for not understanding me, not have to go through all sorts of intellectual machinations. Oh, well, they just don't get it, and they have a prejudice or whatever. It's just they just don't like the way I write, or they didn't like this book, and that's fine. You know, there are other books, and other people will understand it. And so that whole kind of process of rejection and accepting it for being real and true, but not allowing it to do you in is a big deal, because I know a lot of people, man, who've been rejected and have never recovered. They've never written another thing, or they've personalized it and, you know, nursed the wound for years and years. And my attitude is kind of screw it, you know. I mean, okay, next.
Yeah, you're definitely right about that indeed. And since it was kind of like something that you really loved, the musicians, I guess that kind of helped you to fight past that rejection and just keep pushing along to actually get close to those musicians and actually get to where you are today.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. I mean, and that's really what the God groove is. I mean, the God groove, which I heard in gospel music and jazz and R&B, is that sort of motion, that momentum, that pulse that keeps you going. It's the heartbeat, and it's the essence of my own drive, and I am driven by it. You can go to church and you hear some preachers say, "I feel like I'm being pushed by the Spirit," the Spirit, and that's how I feel when I write. I kind of feel like I'm being pushed, and the push is the pulse, and the pulse is the groove. And I think the groove I discovered not in books, oddly enough, though I try to give my books a groove, and I try to have a syncopation to my prose, but I learned it in the blues and in jazz and in R&B and in, Ray Charles and Marvin Gaye and Charlie Parker and Ella Fitzgerald and on and on and on. And that's the groove that I return to every day as I listen to music and I'm inspired by music and I hear music as a prayer. And whether it's an actual literal prayer sung by a gospel singer or whether it's a secular song or a blues song or a hip-hop song, doesn't really sort of matter to me, because what I hear is the pulsating heart of the cosmic groove, the cosmic energy that has been infused into this music, and by absorbing the music, it gets in me, and when it's in me, I can express it in prose. So that whole business of being motivated by rhythm is a big thing to me, and like I said, for reasons I don't completely understand, it's always been African American music that gave me that initial jolt, which I've never gotten over.
Yeah, that's right. The flavor got to you.
It,
Yes, it did. And you did bring up something really good, and I love the fact that you kind of mentioned how not only ghostwriting helped you to keep your ego at bay, but it also helped you to listen with your heart as well and not just your ears.
yeah, that's a big thing. I grew up in a household. We were all big talkers, and when you're in a conversation, the idea was to try to find a pause so you could jump in there and talk and over-talk whoever else was talking. And, man, it took me forever to learn to shut up and listen to people and not have an agenda where I get to talk and show them how much I know or how intelligent I am or give my insights. And the only way I was able to do this is I was getting paid to do it. I know this sounds crass, but in other words, that's why this ghost thing is so important. When I became a ghost writer, what I understood, if I was going to make my living as a writer and not have to go to work at the 7-Eleven, the way to be a good ghost writer is to listen to the person whose book I am doing. And I couldn't do that superficially. I couldn't use those interviews as a time to show off how articulate I am or how much I know about their music, which I have a tendency to do because I have a big ego. So what I learned is that if I'm going to make a living at this job, I've got to listen to people. I've got to keep my comments to a very bare minimum. And I just can't listen to the words. I have to listen to their heart because I have to understand their heart. And I have to offer them empathy and compassion because I am creating their character on the page. And I don't want a superficial character What I want is a character who is offering intimacy with anyone who picks up the book to read the book. So in other words, in order to do a book in which you feel intimacy with the narrator of the book, I have to initially create intimacy in the interviews before the book is even written. And to create intimacy means that your own ego has to be checked. Now, I'm not doing a very good job of that with you today because I'm being interviewed by you, and I haven't even asked you anything. So this is probably an anti-example of how I operate. But having you ask me a bunch of questions and having me talk about myself all the time, which I enjoy doing. I don't mean I like to talk about myself, but that's my default position. When I became a ghostwriter, I had to go against that. I had to kind of relearn how to be with other people and let them do the talking and let me express curiosity about them and let me gain their trust and let me help create an ambiance of intimacy that I could duplicate in the book.
Oh, yeah, that's right indeed. That's right indeed. And the most powerful example of that was the story when you finally got the chance to finally write a biography for Aretha Franklin, and you share the stories about how like she was most happy in the kitchen telling jokes and whatnot and cooking food.
Mm-hmm. Aretha Franklin, lover, wanted to do a book with her forever, chased her for years, finally chased her down. She agreed to let me do her autobiography. I couldn't get her to open up, tried, charm, whatever, didn't work. Did her autobiography. I thought it was very superficial, didn't get to the real story. I actually knew the real story because I had done books with other people who knew her well. 15 years went by. I couldn't live with myself. I made up my mind to write a biography of her. In other words, to make a terrible pun, give up the ghost and become a biographer. So I wrote a biography of her, and she wasn't happy, which I understood, and it kind of pained me to hurt her because I didn't want to hurt her, and my aim was to kind of respect the complexity of her life and her art form, which is why I called the book Respect. And so that's sort of the story. So there are two Aretha Franklin books that I participated in. One was a collaboration with her, which I did as a ghost, and the other one was my biography of her.
It was really a nice set of stories of just how to actually show how you developed as a ghostwriter now in particular, because you already had the experience with Ray Charles and the other folks, and then when you finally got to read this, like, this rejection thing is usual. It's like, hey, they're big superstars, they got schedules and whatnot, but hey, I love this person's music. I actually respect them as a human and their creative artwork, and I'm actually gonna keep trying and then give them the space and to actually tell their stories and make sure to carefully like dodge certain questions at certain times and wait for the proper moment to actually ask them, or the whole time together will be cut short.
Right, exactly. Yeah. Yeah, it's tricky, man. I mean, it's tricky. It's tricky working with stars. It's tricky getting their voice. It's tricky maintaining a relationship with them. You know, and it's been up and down, and but I feel like I'm blessed. I mean, I feel like I'm blessed in that I was able to find what I'm good at, and also was able to get past a prejudice. Now, here's something we haven't talked about that may or may not be interesting, but there's a prejudice against ghosts. I remember, I won't mention the guy's name, but a big star, and I was talking to him one day over dinner with some other people, and I kind of said, it would be great to help you do a book. And he turned to me and he said, "Oh man, I would never use a ghost." Damn, man, that's cold-blooded. I mean, it kind of made me feel like, wow. So, I mean, there's that. That hurts, but and there's also the idea that, when I went to college, I was an English and Italian major, and I got a couple of college degrees, and I never thought about ghosting. I mean, you go to college, and if you major in English, you read all the big authors, and you think, well, if anything, I'll be a biographer, because, sometimes biographers win the Pulitzer Prize, and that's what I wanted to do, win the Pulitzer Prize. And, there's never been a ghost in the history of the world that ever, won the Pulitzer Prize. So what is that, And so when I got out of college and went through a bunch of things, first I was in advertising, then I got tired of that, and I made up my mind to be an author, and I talked Ray Charles into doing his book. My first instinct was to do a biography so I could win the Pulitzer Prize. And an agent said to me, a great guy said to me, you'll get paid more if you do his autobiography. And I said, well, how do you do that? He said, well, you ghost it. And I said, well, I don't want to do that. And even if it is more pay, I don't want to do that. And then he asked me a question which changed my life. And the question was, which book would you rather read? A book written by an egghead like you about Ray Charles, or Ray Charles's own story written in his own voice? My answer was, of course I would much prefer to read Ray Charles's own book written in his own voice. So then the agent said, write the book that you want to read, not the one that you believe you should write. And man, that was a hell of a statement. And that's what I've been doing. I've been trying to write books that I want to read. So that in spite of the fact that even though my name's on the cover, it says with David Ritz, or, in very small type at the bottom of the page, and most people read the book aren't conscious of the fact that it's written by a ghost, and there's not much notoriety or none, it ultimately didn't really make any difference to me, because, number one, I was making a living doing it. Number two, I was having a great time. And number three, I was artistically challenged, and I understood that no matter what the world might think of a ghostwriter, although I don't think the world gives much thought to ghosts anyway, but no matter what the general opinion might be, I knew it was an art form. I was creating art that to channel another person's voice and sculpt their story is an art form. And so, great. Make enough so you can make the house payment and pay for the groceries and, send the kids off to college and have enough money to exist. And that's hard for a freelancers don't make a living. And so that's one of the big things. And I've always gone by my two things. I was at a conference not long ago, and they asked me, what is your sort of main goal as an author? And my answer was, I have two. My first goal is not to go crazy. Because I think there's a good chance we could all go crazy. It's easy to go crazy for every reason in the world, and my second goal is to make a living. And these two goals are tied together, because if I go crazy, I won't make a living, and if I don't make a living, I'll go crazy. So it's not real complicated for me. I mean, I try to keep sane, and I do that by respecting the groove and by allowing the groove, or God, or whatever we want to call it, to keep me going, to complete tasks, to put one foot ahead of the other, to put one word ahead of the other, to complete one book and start another book, and complete that book and start another book. Because, the groove is endless, and the groove is infinite. And so, as is art, we're always sort of making art in our heads and in our hearts and in our mind. So anyway.
Yes, indeed, two fabulous goals. And what was even more powerful about your book, and you mentioned that one book after the other, is that you mentioned how music sounds better than ever. So my next question is, if you were to, do you plan on maybe ghostwriting a book for maybe like one of the modern artists of today? If you were to ghostwrite with another artist, who do you think it would be and
Well,
why?
I've begun, those things just come up. The world is a weird way of introducing you to individuals. Why are you and I kind of talking today, and how did you connect to my book? And, so it's just kind of strange who we meet and how we meet them. But currently I've begun working with the rapper Snoop Dogg, and he's a brilliant guy, and so that's kind of new for me. So, I mean, I've written, one other hip-hop book with Grandmaster Flash of an older generation, but I'm pretty open to who to work with. I'm open to who comes into my life. I try not to prejudge. I try to go with the flow. It isn't that I don't chase after people. I do. If there's a person whose story I want to tell, I will call them or call their agent or manager. So I'm not, as the Temptations say, I'm not too proud to beg, but I also try not to be controlling. I think one of the great things I've learned as a ghost is that you cannot be controlling. It isn't your book. The book belongs to another person. And I think we all, to an extent, or I won't talk for everybody, but I have a controlling sort of nature, and I try to work against that because I think it's an illusion that we can control the world. And so in terms of who I'm going to work with next or what's going to happen, I am more and more allowing the universe to give me what the universe thinks I should have. And who knows, I just completed a book with Morris Day of The Time, the funk band The Time, and it's a book about his relationship with Prince. And, Prince is a major character in the book, and he provides the Greek chorus, and that was an interesting book to do. I just completed a book with Willie Nelson and his sister Bobby, who is 88 years old, and Willie's 86, and it's about their brother-sister relationship over the years, and it's a really, really a great story. And that's a whole other kind of book with a two-person narrative. Working on a book with Lenny Kravitz, and we've been working on that book for a number of years, and he's an intriguing person, and he's really a beautiful guy, and that's a whole different kind of story. Like I said, I'm just out there. I'm open. Call me. Let me write your story. Looking for work, even though I have a bunch of work. I'm a hustler. I believe in the hustle. I believe you got to keep on hustling. I am grateful for my hustle drive. I think that's part of the God groove. I want to fulfill my potential, my artistic potential, which I think, again, is helping people tell their stories. I'm grateful for what I call my forced humility. I think I have, if I am humble, it's only because I know to make a living at this ghosting game, I have to be humble. If I didn't have to be, I don't think I would be humble. And when I say humble, I mean that I realized that my gift comes from God. I mean, I don't know how I got this talent for ghostwriting. It like I said, it wasn't anything that I trained for. It's an instinct that I have, and so anyway, can I ask you a question?
Sure.
So how did you come upon me and this book? I'm just curious why you chose this book to talk about, and what was your introduction to the whole thing? Did you come to it as a Christian or as a believer or as an R&B fan, or just happenstance?
Kind of like a mixture. So since I'm podcast host and it's kind of like modern day radio, got a pitch from one of your publicists, and the title was The God Groove. I'm like, all right, cool. I'm a Christian myself, and my father used to love listening to blues and R&B music.
I see.
And I was like, you know what, this will be great. And especially reading the book too itself, I'm like, it's good because you're only the second ghostwriter I've actually had on this podcast.
Oh, you've interviewed another. Who was that?
Not as famous, but she's a more local lady by the name of Amy Brooks. There we go. I'm glad I got my computer in front of me. It was Amy Brooks. Yeah, there we go. If she hears this podcast, she'll be like, "You better remember me."
Yeah. Anyway, so it was just like a confluence of liking the blues and being a believer and all that stuff.
But it's all good though. It's all good though. Well, I know you're running out of time here, so I'll just close off with a question I like to ask every guest, and that was if you were to wake up tomorrow and you're 25 again, but this time in 2019 with all your amassed knowledge and experience, what advice would you give to yourself?
Don't go crazy. And try to make a living.
Oh, yeah, that's what I'm talking about, indeed. That's what I'm talking about, indeed. All righty, I'll be sure to put your website and everything in the show notes, as well as the link to your Amazon page with all of your...
Well, you're kind to give me the time, and I appreciate all the attention. God bless you, brother.
Yes, sir, indeed. Yes, sir, indeed. Any parting words to the folks still listening?
No, just that just to be kind to each other, and if anybody's interested in this book, it would be my honor to have you go order the thing.
How's it going, you showstopper? It's great that you enjoyed this episode of the Going North podcast. If you really enjoyed it, be sure to shoot the guest an email or head over to the social media pages and leave them a nice response that you heard them on the Going North podcast, so that way they can continue to be inspired to do great things. And be sure to share this podcast with others that you think would enjoy it as well, because we want to inspire as many people as possible to live their dreams, embrace them, and to do something positive.